The text message arrived at 3:47 p.m., just as I was setting up the anniversary party decorations in our smart home's living room. 23 years of marriage, and Maren still thought I was stupid enough to believe her lies. Blizzard shut the road. I can't get back from the trip. So sorry, honey. Cancel the party. Love you. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at my phone, then walked to my laptop. 3 clicks later, I had the live traffic cam for Highway 94 pulled up on my 65-inch TV. Sunny skies, clear roads, cars moving at normal speed. My name is Elias Crowley, and I'm a senior network analyst for a mid-sized tech company in what used to be a thriving Midwest industrial city. Think Castle Rock, but with more chain restaurants and fewer Stephen King monsters. Well, fewer supernatural ones anyway. I've spent the last 15 years perfecting the art of digital forensics, tracking network intrusions and data breaches. Turns out those skills are pretty handy when your wife of 23 years decides to take up creative writing in the form of text message fiction. The house felt different without Maren's constant chatter about pharmaceutical sales targets and her boss Nolan's innovative strategies. Our daughter Ruby was upstairs, probably live streaming her teenage angst to her followers. The smart home's ambient lighting had automatically adjusted to party mode, casting warm golden hues across the living room where I'd spent 3 hours hanging streamers and arranging photo collages of our supposedly happy marriage. I pulled up Maren's car's GPS history on my phone. The beauty of modern technology. Every device leaves a trail. Her Mercedes hadn't left the city limits. In fact, according to the location data, it was currently parked at the Grandview Hotel downtown. The same hotel where she'd had her client dinner last Tuesday. My fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. Maren's company travel portal was poorly secured. A joke, really. No business trip approved for this week. No conference registration. No expense reports filed. But there were plenty of phone records. 47 calls to Nolan Trent in the past month, most after 10 p.m., the longest lasting 2 hours and 36 minutes. Nolan Trent, regional sales manager, married father of 2, drives a black BMW that I'd seen parked 3 spaces down from Maren's Mercedes at the Grandview Hotel just last week when I'd driven past after my boxing workout at Toby's gym. I sat back in my ergonomic office chair, surrounded by the anniversary party decorations that suddenly looked like evidence of my own stupidity. 23 years. A daughter in her senior year of high school, a mortgage on this ridiculous smart home that Maren insisted we needed to project success. The guests would start arriving in 3 hours. The Hendersons from next door, the Patels from down the street, Maren's work friends, my old college buddies who still thought I was living the suburban dream. I opened Facebook and navigated to my relationship status. With a single click, I changed it from married to Maren Crowley to single. Then I opened our joint banking app and froze all of Maren's cards. My phone buzzed with notifications as the Facebook change propagated through our social network. The first comment came from my neighbor, Janet Henderson. "Everything okay, Elias?" I typed back, just updating my status to reflect reality. Apparently there's a blizzard that only affects cheating wives. Then I screenshotted the weather cam and texted it to Maren with a simple message. Sunny and 72 degrees. Perfect weather for a party. See you soon. The reply came back in 30 seconds. What the hell is wrong with you? Check Facebook, I typed back. My phone started ringing immediately. I declined the call and sent another text. The party's still on. I'm sure our guests would love to hear about your business trip. Ruby's footsteps thundered down the stairs. Dad, what did you do? Mom's freaking out and her friends are blowing up my phone. I told the truth, I said, not looking up from my laptop where I was now printing out Maren's phone records. Novel concept, I know. This is insane. You can't just... The front door slammed open. Maren stood in the doorway, her face flushed. Her business trip outfit consisting of a dress I'd never seen before and heels that cost more than my monthly car payment. Elias, what have you done? I held up the printed phone records. Welcome home, honey. How was the blizzard? Maren's face went through several shades of pale as she stared at the phone records in my hand. Behind her, I could see the Hendersons walking up our driveway, carrying a wrapped gift and wearing their best party smiles. We need to talk privately, Maren hissed. Privacy is overrated, I replied, walking to the front door. Janet, Bill, come on in. Maren just got back from her imaginary business trip. The Hendersons exchanged glances as they stepped into our foyer. Janet's smile faltered as she took in Maren's expression and the papers in my hand. Elias, stop this right now, Maren warned. Stop what? Celebrating our anniversary? You're right, though. 23 years does seem like enough. More guests arrived. The Patels, my college buddy Dave and his wife, 3 of Maren's pharmaceutical colleagues, including her best friend Jen Treadwell. They filed into our living room, sensing tension but not understanding its source. Ruby retreated upstairs, probably to livestream the family meltdown to her followers. "Should I get the champagne?" asked Bill Henderson, clearly uncomfortable. "Absolutely," I said, heading to the kitchen. "We're celebrating honesty tonight." I returned with a bottle of Dom Perignon, the good stuff Maren had been saving for special occasions. The cork popped with satisfying force. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, raising my glass, "I'd like to make a toast to my wife Maren, who has spent the last 6 months teaching me that marriage is all about creative storytelling." "Elias, please," Maren whispered. "For instance," I continued, "today she told me she couldn't make our anniversary party because of a blizzard, but as you can see, she's here. Must have been a very localized weather event, probably centered around the Grandview Hotel downtown." Jen Treadwell stepped forward. "I think maybe we should—" "Oh, Jen! Perfect timing. You work with Maren. Tell me, was there a pharmaceutical conference this week that I missed in the company calendar?" Jen's silence was answer enough. I walked to my laptop and pulled up the weather cam footage on the TV. "Look at that. Sunny skies all day. But Maren's been trapped in a blizzard with her regional manager, Nolan Trent. 47 phone calls last month, folks. That's dedication to customer service." The room had gone completely silent except for the ambient house music still playing through our smart speakers. "You snake," Maren finally said, her voice shaking with rage. "Now there's the honesty I've been missing," I replied. "Ladies and gentlemen, my wife, Maren Crowley, pharmaceutical sales rep by day, creative fiction writer by night." Dave cleared his throat. "Maybe we should give you 2 some space." "No, please stay," I insisted. "Maren loves an audience, don't you, honey? That's why you've been performing for Nolan Trent for the past 6 months." Maren lunged for the phone records in my hand, but I pulled them back. "These are copies, sweetheart. I've got digital backups of everything. Your expense reports, your GPS data, your phone records. Amazing what you can discover when you actually know how to use technology." "You hacked my phone?" she screamed. "I analyzed our family plan data. Everything you've done, every lie you've told, every night you've spent texting your married boss while I was sleeping next to you. It's all there in black and white." Jen tried to take Maren's arm. "Come on, let's go outside." "Why?" I interrupted. "So you can help her coordinate the next story? Tell me, Jen, how long have you known about Nolan?" Jen's face gave her away immediately. "Ah, I see. The whole pharmaceutical sales team knows. Everyone except the stupid husband who pays for the house and the car and the designer dresses she wears to her hotel meetings." The guests were backing toward the door now, but I wasn't finished. 23 years, I said, my voice getting louder. 23 years of marriage, and she throws it away for a middle-aged sales manager with a receding hairline and a BMW lease he can barely afford. "Elias, stop!" Ruby's voice came from the stairway. She was filming with her phone, tears streaming down her face. "No, Ruby, you need to hear this too. Your mother has been lying to all of us. Every business trip, every late meeting, every conference that mysteriously got extended. All lies." I turned back to the room. "The party's over, folks. But don't worry. There's going to be a lot more entertainment in the coming weeks. I'm thinking of starting a blog." The Digital Detective, How I Caught My Cheating Wife Using Basic IT Skills. Maren was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "You're destroying everything." "I'm not destroying anything," I said calmly. "I'm just revealing what's already been destroyed. You did that 6 months ago when you decided Nolan Trent was more interesting than your family." The guests filed out quickly, leaving their gifts behind. Only Jen remained, hovering near Maren like a protective mother hen. "This isn't over," Maren said through her tears. "You're absolutely right," I replied, pouring myself another glass of champagne. "Oh, it's just getting started." 3 days after the anniversary party massacre, my phone had become a weapon of mass destruction. The story had spread through our suburban neighborhood like a virus, mutating and growing with each retelling. Ruby wasn't speaking to me, Maren had moved in with Jen temporarily, and I'd become the neighborhood pariah. Which is why I was sitting alone at the Blizzard tap room on Thursday night, nursing my 3rd beer and enjoying the irony of the bar's name. The place was a local dive that served decent burgers and attracted the kind of crowd that minded their own business. Or so I thought. Well, if it isn't the Digital Detective. I looked up from my beer to see Nolan Trent standing next to my table. He was wearing his standard uniform, expensive polo shirt, khakis, and the kind of confident smirk that screamed regional sales manager. At 46, he kept himself in decent shape, Probably had a gym membership he actually used, unlike the rest of us suburban dads. "Nolan," I said, not bothering to stand. "How's the weather been treating you?" He slid into the booth across from me without invitation. "You think you're pretty clever, don't you?" "I think I'm observant. There's a difference. You humiliated Maren in front of her friends, in front of your daughter." I told the truth. If that's humiliating, maybe the problem isn't with me. Nolan leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Listen, you pathetic middle-aged tech geek. Maren is with me now. She's done with your passive-aggressive bullshit and your hopeless marriage. You can either accept that like a man, or you can keep playing these childish games." I took a slow sip of my beer, studying his face. "Tell me something, Nolan. Does your wife know you're here, or is she at home with your kids thinking you're working late again?" His confident expression flickered for just a moment. "That's what I thought," I continued. "See, the thing about cheaters is they always think they're smarter than everyone else. But you're not. You're just another middle management cliché having a midlife crisis with my wife." "Your wife came to me," he said, his voice getting harder. She was tired of being married to a bitter loser who spends his evenings playing with computers. "Is that what she told you?" I laughed. "And you believed her? Jesus, Nolan, for a sales manager, you're remarkably bad at reading people." Several other patrons had started glancing in our direction. The bartender, a grizzled guy named Murphy, who'd been running the place for 20 years, was watching us with the wary expression of someone who'd seen too many bar fights. "Here's what really happened," I said, my voice carrying just enough to reach the neighboring tables. "My wife got bored with suburban life and decided to have an affair with her married boss. You know, the kind of guy who tells women his marriage is over while his wife is home making dinner for his kids." "Shut up," Nolan hissed. "The kind of guy who uses company expense accounts to pay for hotel rooms. The kind of guy who thinks he's a player but is really just another cheating husband in a polo shirt." I said, "Shut up." "The kind of guy who's probably done this before. Tell me, Nolan, how many other pharmaceutical reps have you mentored in hotel rooms? Is this part of your standard management training program?" Nolan's face was red now. He glanced around the bar, realizing that our conversation had become the evening's entertainment. "You want to know the funny thing?" I continued, pulling out my phone. "I've been doing some research on you. Amazing what you can find with basic internet searches. For instance, did you know your wife Jennifer has a very active Facebook account?" His eyes went wide. "She posts a lot of pictures of your family vacations, your kids' soccer games, your anniversary dinners. Seems like a nice woman. I'm thinking of sending her some information about your mentoring techniques." "You wouldn't dare." "Try me. I've got nothing left to lose thanks to you and my wife. But you've got a lot to lose. Your job, your marriage, your kids' respect. How do you think Jennifer Trent would feel about your business trips with Maren?" Nolan stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting my wife, but I'm not making that mistake anymore." He leaned over the table, trying to intimidate me with his height. "Stay away from my family. Then stay away from mine." "Maren isn't your family anymore." I stood up slowly, meeting his eyes. "You're right, but Ruby is. And if you think I'm going to let you and my cheating wife destroy my relationship with my daughter, you're even dumber than I thought." The entire bar was watching us now. Murphy had his hand on the phone, ready to call the cops if things escalated. "This isn't over," Nolan said. "You're absolutely right," I replied, echoing my words to Maren 3 days earlier. "It's just getting started. Enjoy your evening, Nolan. Give my regards to Jennifer when you get home. Oh wait, you're probably not going home, are you? Another late meeting?" He stormed out of the bar, leaving me standing there with the attention of every patron in the place. I raised my beer glass in a mock toast. "To honesty, folks, it's a beautiful thing." The bar erupted in scattered applause and laughter. Murphy walked over, shaking his head. "That was either very stupid or very brave," he said. "Probably both," I replied, finishing my beer. But it felt good. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover and a plan. The confrontation with Nolan had been satisfying, but it was just the opening move. If I was going to play this game, I needed to play it smarter than my opponents. I called in sick to work and drove across town to the Ironworks, a boxing gym housed in a converted factory building. The place smelled like sweat, leather, and honest effort, a sharp contrast to the sterile environment of my office cubicle. Toby Martinez owned the gym. At 55, he was a former Golden Gloves boxer who'd spent the last 20 years teaching kids and middle-aged men like me how to hit things properly. I'd been coming here twice a week for the past year, partly for exercise and partly for the therapy of hitting heavy bags. "You look like hell," Toby said as I walked in. "Feel worse than I look." "Heard about your wife. Word travels fast in this neighborhood." I wasn't surprised. The ironworks attracted blue-collar guys from all over the city, and gossip was as much a part of the gym culture as jump rope and speed bags. Yeah, well, turns out 23 years of marriage doesn't mean much when your wife decides she wants to play house with her boss. Toby handed me a pair of gloves. You want to talk about it or hit something? Both. I spent the next hour working out my frustrations on the heavy bag while Toby held pads and listened to my story. By the time I was finished, my hands were sore and my head was clearer. So, what's your plan? Toby asked as we sat on the bench drinking water. I'm still working on it, but I'm not going down without a fight. Good, but be smart about it. Guys like this Nolan character, they think they're tough because they wear suits and drive fancy cars. But they've never been in a real fight. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe Mr. Regional Sales Manager might benefit from some physical education. You said he's been talking trash about you around town. According to Jen, he's been telling people I'm a loser who couldn't satisfy my wife. Toby grinned. Well, maybe it's time someone taught him some manners. You know, in a completely educational way. I can't just beat him up, Toby. I'd get arrested. Who said anything about beating him up? I'm talking about inviting him to the gym, friendly sparring session, see how tough he really is when he's not hiding behind a desk. The idea was tempting, but I had a better plan forming in my mind. Actually, I think I need to do some more research first. Know your enemy, right? I spent the rest of the day at the gym's small office computer, using my IT skills to dig deeper into Nolan Trent's life. What I found was fascinating. Nolan wasn't just cheating on his wife with Maren. According to his credit card records, which were embarrassingly easy to access through a combination of social engineering and basic hacking, he'd been having affairs for years. Hotel charges in different cities, restaurant bills for two when he was supposedly traveling alone, charges at jewelry stores that didn't match the jewelry his wife wore in her Facebook photos. But more interesting was his gambling problem. Regular charges at 3 different casinos, online poker accounts, and what looked like payments to a bookie based on the timing and amounts. The man was living a double life that made Maren's affair look like amateur hour. I also discovered that Nolan's position at the pharmaceutical company wasn't as secure as he pretended. There had been complaints about his expense reports, questions about his sales territories, and rumors about inappropriate relationships with female employees. By the time I left the gym, I had enough information to destroy Nolan Trent's life 10 times over, but I wasn't ready to use it yet. First, I wanted to see just how far he was willing to push things. That evening, I got my answer. Ruby came home from school in tears. Dad, everyone's talking about us, about you and Mom. Some kids are saying horrible things. What kind of things? That you're crazy, that you attacked Mom's friend, that you're stalking her new boyfriend. I felt a cold rage building in my chest. Who told them that? I don't know, but it's all over social media. Someone posted that you threatened Mr. Trent at a bar. I pulled out my phone and checked Facebook. Sure enough, there was a post from one of Maren's pharmaceutical colleagues describing me as an unhinged stalker who was harassing innocent people. The post had been shared dozens of times and was generating comments from people I'd never met, all of them painting me as the villain in this story. Ruby, listen to me. I need you to understand something. Your mother and I are getting divorced. That's not your fault, and it's not going to change how much I love you, but I'm not going to let her and her boyfriend destroy my reputation with lies. What are you going to do? I looked at my daughter, 17 years old, caught in the middle of her parents' war, and already paying the price for her mother's choices. I'm going to fight back. 2 weeks after the social media assassination attempt, I was ready to make my next move. Maren had been staying with Jen, but according to Ruby, they were planning a healing retreat at a lakeside lodge called the Pines. Apparently, Nolan and even his wife Jennifer were invited, some kind of couples therapy weekend designed to work through the situation. The irony was perfect. Nolan's wife still didn't know about the affair, and Maren was apparently planning to play the role of supportive friend while continuing to sleep with Jennifer's husband. I'd been tracking their plans through Ruby's location services. She'd forgotten to turn them off on her phone, and since I paid for the family plan, I had access to everyone's GPS data. They were leaving Friday afternoon for a long weekend at the Pines, a remote lodge about 2 hours north of the city. What they didn't know was that I'd been doing my homework. I'd spent the previous week conducting what I like to call advanced reconnaissance. Phone calls to the lodge pretending to be planning my own retreat, conversations with local businesses about the area, even a drive up there the previous weekend to scout the location. The Pines was isolated, surrounded by woods, with only one road in and out. Cell service was spotty. It was the perfect place for a private conversation. Friday evening, I loaded my car with camping gear, surveillance equipment, and printed copies of everything I'd discovered about Nolan's gambling debts, previous affairs, and financial irregularities. Then I drove north. I set up camp in the woods about half a mile from the lodge, close enough to monitor their activities but far enough away to avoid detection. Through binoculars, I could see their cars parked in the lodge's lot. Maren's Mercedes, Nolan's BMW, and a Honda Pilot that probably belonged to Jennifer Trent. That night, I watched through the lodge's windows as they sat around the fireplace, playing the role of two couples working through relationship problems. Jennifer Trent looked like a nice woman, blonde, probably mid-40s, wearing the kind of casual clothes that screamed suburban mom. She had no idea that her husband was sleeping with one of the other women in the room. Saturday morning, I made my move. I waited until they'd left for a group hike, all four of them heading into the woods behind the lodge. Then I drove to the lodge and had a conversation with the manager, a friendly woman named Carol, who was very interested in my story about trying to surprise my cheating wife. Room 12, Carol said, shaking her head sympathetically. They checked in as two couples, but the sleeping arrangements are unusual. What do you mean? Well, your wife and the dark-haired man are in the same room. The blonde woman is in the room next door. She seems very confused about the whole situation. Perfect. I left printed copies of Nolan's financial records and affair history in Jennifer Trent's room, along with a note. Ask your husband about his business trips. Ask him about the gambling debts. Ask him about the other women. You deserve better. Then I set up my laptop in my car and waited. They returned from their hike around noon. I watched through binoculars as Jennifer went to her room and found my package. Even from a distance, I could see her body language change as she read the documents. 20 minutes later, she stormed out of her room and confronted Nolan in the lodge's main area. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I didn't need to. Her gestures and his defensive posture told the whole story. Then things got interesting. Jennifer turned on Maren, screaming something that made my wife step backward. Jen Treadwell tried to intervene, but Jennifer pushed her away. The argument escalated until lodge security had to separate them. That's when I decided to make my grand entrance. I walked into the lodge carrying a folder full of documents and wearing my most innocent expression. Maren, what a surprise seeing you here. I thought you were at a pharmaceutical conference. The silence in the room was deafening. Jennifer Trent stared at me with red-rimmed eyes. Nolan looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Maren's face went through several shades of pale. Elias, she whispered, what are you doing here? Funny story, I said, pulling out my phone. I was tracking Ruby's location to make sure she was safe, and I noticed you were here instead of at the conference you told her about, so I thought I'd drive up and surprise you. I turned to Jennifer. You must be Nolan's wife. I'm Elias Crowley, Maren's husband. Well, soon-to-be ex-husband. Jennifer's voice was barely controlled. Your wife has been sleeping with my husband. Yes, I know, for about 6 months now. I have phone records, hotel receipts, GPS data, the whole digital trail. I'm actually impressed by how sloppy they've been about covering their tracks. Nolan finally found his voice. You snake. You planned this. Planned what? Telling the truth? Yes, I planned that very carefully. I opened my folder and handed Jennifer a complete dossier on her husband's activities. Credit card records showing hotel charges when he was supposedly alone, restaurant bills for romantic dinners with women who weren't you, casino charges that explain why your family's savings account has been shrinking. Jennifer looked through the papers, her hands shaking. There's more, I continued. Nolan's been having affairs for years. Maren is just the latest in a long line of pharmaceutical reps he's been mentoring. There are at least 3 others that I found evidence of. You're lying, Nolan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Check his phone, I suggested to Jennifer. Check the deleted text messages. I can show you how to recover them if you want. Jennifer turned to her husband. Is this true? Nolan's silence was answer enough. That's when Jen Treadwell made her move, and everything changed. Stop it, she screamed at me. You're destroying everything. Maren deserves to be happy. Happy? I laughed. She's sleeping with a married man who's been lying to both of you. She loves him. No, I said slowly, pieces clicking into place. She doesn't, but you love her. Jen's face went white. That's what this is really about, isn't it? I continued, the truth dawning on me. You've been in love with Maren for years. You encouraged this affair because you thought it would break up our marriage and give you a chance with her. That's ridiculous, Jen stammered. Is it? You're the one who covered for her. You're the one who helped coordinate their meetings. You're the one who's been feeding her lies about our marriage, convincing her that she deserves better. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Tell me, Jen, how long have you been in love with my wife? The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. The revelation at the Pines Lodge sent shockwaves through our little suburban drama. Jennifer Trent filed for divorce the following Monday. Nolan was suspended from his job pending an investigation into his expense account irregularities and inappropriate relationships with subordinates. And Jen Treadwell's secret obsession with Maren became the talk of the pharmaceutical company. But I wasn't finished. 3 weeks later, our neighborhood's annual block party provided the perfect stage for the final act of my revenge drama. The event was held on Maple Street, with the road blocked off and folding tables set up for a potluck dinner. It was the kind of wholesome suburban gathering that Maren had always loved, an opportunity to network, gossip, and maintain her image as the perfect pharmaceutical sales rep and devoted wife. Except now, everyone knew the truth about her marriage, her affair, and her best friend's unrequited love. The whispers followed her everywhere. I arrived at the block party carrying a laptop bag and wearing a smile that made several neighbors step back. I'd spent weeks preparing for this moment, and I was ready to deliver a performance that would be remembered long after the divorce papers were signed. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, tapping a fork against my beer bottle to get everyone's attention, "I'd like to make a toast." The crowd of about 50 neighbors turned toward me with expressions ranging from curiosity to concern. Maren was standing near the dessert table with Jen, both of them looking like deer caught in headlights. 24 years ago, I moved to this neighborhood as a young man with dreams of building a life with the woman I loved. Tonight, I'm here to celebrate the end of that dream and the beginning of something much more honest. "Elias, don't," Maren warned, but her voice lacked authority. "Don't what? Tell the truth? I've been telling the truth for weeks now, and it's been very liberating." I pulled my laptop out of its bag and connected it to a portable speaker I'd brought for the occasion. "See, the thing about being a network analyst is that you learn to follow data trails, and my wife Maren has left quite a trail over the past 6 months." I opened a PowerPoint presentation titled "The Blizzard That Never Came, a Digital Detective Story." "Slide 1, I announced as a photo of Maren and Nolan appeared on my laptop screen. My wife and her married boss, Nolan Trent, at the Grandview Hotel. This photo was taken by hotel security cameras on March 15th, the same day Maren told me she was visiting her sick aunt in Toledo. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone pulled out their phone and started recording. Slide 2. Phone records showing 47 calls between Maren and Nolan in the month of March alone. Average call duration, 1 hour and 23 minutes. These calls typically occurred between 10 p.m. and midnight, while I was sleeping in the bed next to my wife. "Stop this," Jen pleaded, stepping forward. "Oh, Jen, perfect timing. Slide 3 is all about you." A new image appeared on the screen. Screenshots of text messages between Jen and Maren discussing their plan to end my marriage. It turns out Jen Treadwell has been orchestrating this affair from the beginning, not because she wanted Maren to be happy, but because she's been in love with Maren for years and saw this as her chance to break us up. "That's not true," Jen screamed, but her face was bright red. Slide 4. Jen's browser history, which I accessed through her work computer when she left it unlocked during a company event. Searches for how to break up a marriage, signs of a cheating husband, and my personal favorite, lesbian dating after divorce. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Slide 5. Financial records showing that Nolan Trent has been embezzling company funds to pay for his gambling debts and his affairs. He's been using fake expense reports and fictional business trips to steal money from the pharmaceutical company that employs both him and my wife. I turned to face Maren directly. "Did you know about the embezzlement, honey, or were you just a useful idiot in Jen's plan to destroy our marriage?" Maren was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks just like at our anniversary party. "The beautiful thing about digital evidence," I continued, "is that it's permanent. Every text message, every phone call, every credit card transaction, every GPS location, it's all there, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows how to look." I closed the laptop and picked up my beer. So here's my toast. To the end of lies, the power of truth, and the satisfaction of watching cheaters get exactly what they deserve. I raised my bottle toward Maren and Jen. Your affair destroyed our marriage, ruined Nolan's career, and exposed Jen's pathetic obsession, but it also freed me from a life built on deception. So thank you. The crowd erupted in confused murmurs and scattered applause. Some people were taking pictures. Others were backing away from the drama. Nolan chose that moment to arrive at the party, apparently unaware of what had just transpired. He walked up to the crowd with the confident stride of a man who still thought he was in control of the situation. "What's going on here?" he asked. "Perfect timing," I said, walking toward him. "Ladies and gentlemen, the star of our show has arrived. Nolan Trent, embezzler, serial cheater, and gambling addict. Nolan's face went pale as he realized what was happening. You want to know the funny thing about bullies? I said, getting close enough to smell his expensive cologne. They're always cowards underneath. I'm not afraid of you, he said, but his voice was shaking. You should be. See, I've sent copies of all my evidence to your wife's divorce lawyer, your company's HR department, and the district attorney's office. You're going to lose your job, your marriage, your house, and probably your freedom. I leaned in close enough that only he could hear my next words. And if you ever come near my family again, I'll make sure everyone knows about the 15-year-old you were texting last year. Yeah, I found those messages too. Nolan stumbled backward, his face white with terror. The party's over, I announced to the crowd. For some of us, anyway. For me, it's just beginning. I packed up my laptop and walked toward my car, leaving behind the wreckage of my old life and the shocked faces of my neighbors. As I drove away, I could see Maren and Jen standing alone in the middle of the street, abandoned by the crowd and facing the consequences of their choices. Sometimes, to survive the blizzard, you have to become the storm.